When you were playing that record, what were you thinking?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Take 25. I'm your host, Luke Irvin, and here at Take 25, I sit down and have conversations with other creatives and entrepreneurs, and we all have one thing in common. We're all connected to Arkansas in some way. Now, before I get into the guest for today's episode, I'd like to ask that if you are new here, please consider subscribing, following, liking, all of that good stuff. Let me know in the comments below, are you watching this on YouTube or are you listening to this on one of your favorite podcasts? Just really curious to see how everyone is discovering this podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Josiah Dickens, who is the owner of Blue Box Studios here in Arkansas. This is a small little video shop that he started that he runs with his wife, and they built up a little team, and they are just doing some cool things. So we dive a lot into his story of, where he got a lot of his creative inspiration, what led him to video, and some other things as well. So really fun episode. I've been chatting with Josiah for a while. It's been good to get to know him, and I really enjoyed the conversation that we had. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation with myself and Josiah. Well, thank you so much for joining. We've been chatting about this for a while, so we're going to get into your video business for sure, but where I like to start things out is kind of like at the beginning of people's stories. So I'm curious, we've been getting to know each other for a while now, but one thing we haven't really gotten into is, are you from Arkansas originally? Were you kind of growing up here, or did you relocate here?
Yeah. I was originally born, obviously in Little Rock at the hospital there, but I was raised and literally lived in almost my entire life, Greenbrier, Arkansas. Yeah, Spring Hill, actually, right between Conway and Greenbrier. So I got a little bit of both. But yeah, I've never really stepped outside until I became an adult, got married, and I moved to Iowa for about 6 months, campaigning for Rand Paul, and then I moved to Las Vegas to continue campaigning for him for about 3 or 4 months. So I've only lived out of the state for those brief periods.
Oh, wow, that's a short sprint. Yeah, I haven't even gotten into this on any of the past episodes because it's really interesting. Like, I wasn't even born in Arkansas. I relocated here, but my parents grew up here, so we already had, like, it's one of those situations where I had so much family here,
right?
Especially on my mom's side. So yeah, the first few years of my life was in Texas, and then moved here. That's cool. So growing up, so I grew up in Hope, which is a pretty small town. So it seems like we both kind of grew up in small towns. Growing up, were you into like creative things? Did you dabble with anything creative?
I was homeschooled, but I went to like a co-op, and there was a lot of people there that were sort of creative, and I kind of like really wanted to get into that group, not specifically in my academy, but more so in the homeschool community. Homeschoolers are known to be notoriously like creative and like kind of out there. And I remember the first time I really got into it and like wanted to do it was when I watched a Julian Smith video. He's an old YouTube comedy sketch guy, but one of his first videos was before he did comedy sketches was he took an old Jeep and just set up microphones all over the Jeep and then made a song with the different sounds from the Jeep. And I remember bringing it to school, to co-op, and being like, "Hey guys, we should do something like this. This would be awesome." And I was like, "We could be YouTubers," and and everyone was just kind of like, "Yeah, that's stupid." and so it kind of just killed the dream for a little while. I kind of was just like, okay, maybe this is, I can't do it. I didn't feel like I could do it on my own. And but me and my sister, we made little videos and did lots of plays growing up. There was a lot of plays that we put on for family and friends. So that was kind of acting and just kind of being a goofball was kind of part of my growing up. So it turned into wanting to be an entertainer to some extent, which I've never succeeded at yet, but it's still in the works. Having 3 kids kind of slowed that down.
You can still do it. I mean, you just look at like all the stuff we have access to today. Like, there's no telling what you could do. Man, that's crazy. So Julian Smith. So this is going to show age difference a little bit because there's about 10 years between us. because I remember all of his early stuff, and this was, I think I was just in college when he was blowing up on YouTube. I think I did get to engage with him a little bit on Twitter back and forth, but he was someone I always wanted to meet. His kind of story is really fascinating to me because it's like there's a handful of YouTubers I followed growing up that like were hitting these highs and then they would just disappear. And he kind of did that. He was doing like his thing, and then all of a sudden he just kind of ghosted everyone. And I think he went, I think a lot of these people end up, instead of being more independent, they go more commercial routes and stop doing like their content. The only one I've seen that's kind of like made the biggest transition would be like Donald Glover, like starting off on YouTube doing sketches and then eventually transitioning to TV and film. Whereas like someone like Julian just kind of like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah. But Julian Smith was actually really good friends at one point, at least I think, pretty good friends with Blimey Cow, the two brothers in Tennessee, because they both lived in Tennessee. And then he moved to his whole channel and everything changed when he moved to California. He wanted to be, I think he wanted to be a director. I think that was like his goal. And he moved off. But yeah, I'm actually pretty decent friends with the Blimey Cow guys. They're really cool, both brothers, and super creative. And Kevin McCreary, who does film reviews on YouTube and whatnot. But yeah, all, like I said, there was like a big group of homeschoolers across the country that kind of were doing these YouTube channels and different things, Lego animations, like stop motion, and like all these different things just across the board. And I thought it was really fascinating, and I really wanted to get in. I wanted to be one of the early ones on YouTube, but I just never could find the discipline, probably, to be honest. And I wanted to have more people in on it, like that supported it, and I was just kind of alone, so I just never did it. But I still have some sort of a dream to entertain people. And now that I've become a filmmaker, it's transitioned into more of I think I want to like tell people stories, and entertain people that way. One of my biggest passions is like kind of a docu-film on just random people. I want to do a series of docu-films on people from all over the country and the world that are just completely random, chosen for no reason at all, literally completely random, not where I just walk up to the door with the camera and I do a docu-film on their life, what if they're willing to share. It's something that keeps coming back to me too, because every time I go travel, I'll like see random people in these little towns, and I'm like, I feel like they've got a story. And that's something that's always been there. I went to a big city. I was in Georgia during COVID in Atlanta, and I saw these. It was like really deserted because of COVID. But like I saw these homeless people, and I was just like, I want to talk to these people, and like, so that's been a big thing for me.
Yeah, that's been crossing my mind here lately, is seeing, it's the unfortunate thing of like getting a higher number of like homelessness here in our area. But like, it's one of those, like, I would love to just go sit down with them and kind of hear their story and kind of understand, like, what happened and stuff. There was someone, I don't know if he's still working on this. We had worked I think it was Jordan, my friend Jordan. We were some kind of startup competition, and he
just realized there's mowing sound in the background. That's the mowing people just decided to show up right now.
Oh, it's no worries.
Right.
Mowing people came here yesterday. They may come. I don't know if they're supposed to come today for flower bed stuff, but anyway. But no, my friend, my acquaintance Jordan, we had did a startup competition, and he was working on something. I think it was called Bold Folks Home, but the idea was to go to nursing homes and create like a docu-series where they tell their stories. So much of that is like, you look at like that community, a lot of them, like, in some cases their family just kind of leaves them there, and so they're lonely, so they need someone to talk to, but they all have stories to tell. So it was a way to kind of like, the idea was like to turn them into more like celebrity type figures and let them share their stories, which I thought was really fascinating. Don't know if he's still working on it though, but I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea because so another backstory. I grew up doing elder care in my home. My dad was a nurse, and my parents were missionaries. And they came home and had to take care of his mother, who was bedfast. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad decided just to do it as a business and a ministry. And so he opened his home to doing elder care. And I grew up doing that since I was one. That's when we started that. So we did that till I was 20 something years old. So I grew up with that, and talk about stories. Like, these people have so many stories and so much to teach. And then whenever I went campaigning, we would go to I'd knock on doors. That's what I was doing. I was knocking on doors, getting paid really good money to do it. But whenever an older person would come to the door, a lot of times they'd be like, "Come on in," and they'd be like, "Fix you a glass of tea." And we're supposed to just knock and go, like we're,
Yeah.
But I always had like a soft spot because
Mm-hmm.
I knew they were lonely, and I wanted to hear their stories. So that's a really good idea. I would love to talk to him about that. Make sure he's still doing it, because that should be done for sure.
Yeah, he's super creative. I've been trying to reconnect with him, so hopefully I can. And if I can do that, I can connect you guys. See if he's still working on that. Cool. So circling back real quick. So it seemed like the idea of video and storytelling, that was like an early passion or indicator of like something you wanted to do. Were you doing, like you said you did plays, were you doing that before video, or was that around the same time?
No, I didn't actually get to start doing the video stuff really. We technically had a little home camera that we used a little bit, but
Mhm.
it was more my sister's, and I just used it here and there to record random stuff around the house. It was not there was no art behind it at all.
Okay.
But the plays were like something me and my cousins and my sister used to do a lot. We would put on little plays literally just right here in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We did it in North Carolina with my family there, and we would just have all the family together, and we would put on this little bitty skits. And I did that when I was like, I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I started being interested in being a YouTuber and making videos, was like 15-ish or 13, 14, 15. And my dad almost bought me a camera. He was like going to give me a Canon Rebel.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I know you're interested in photography and video. We should get you this camera. And then for some reason he didn't. So it kind of, and I always look back and I'm just like, man, I wonder what would have happened, because that's kind of like, everyone's like, yeah, I got this camera when I was this age, and I, learned it back then. And then now they're like, 5 million subscribers, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
making really great videos. And I'm just like, I shouldn't look back, but sometimes you got to look back and go,
Sure.
what if, because that now, I learned videography and filmmaking in
Mm-hmm.
about a year, like the
Mm-hmm.
basics. And I was like, what if I'd learned that back then and like kind of already went that direction?
Yeah.
But here I am now, and like Gary Vee says, we're young. We're
Yeah.
young. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
worried.
So you've mentioned YouTube a few times. Outside of Julian Smith, were there any other YouTubers that were big influences to you? And also, what about film? Like, were you watching movies before then? Was there any like specific films that were big impacts for you?
So Balloon Shop was a big one. Also another skit. And then Olin Rogers was another big one. And I really loved his stuff because of his creativity and telling stories. And he's a funny guy.
Hmm.
And there was a few others probably, but really, when it came to films, I was not actually that big into it. Like, I was homeschooled. Again,
Mm-hmm.
comes back to this a lot because it had a huge impact on certain things. Like, I was kind of sheltered, right? So we didn't get to watch a lot of movies and stuff. We did, but it was there was a lot of filtration and stuff. But I do remember growing up, we had a very specifically Christian network that we watched that was like specifically made for homeschoolers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of funny because there was some really, like, the guys that make Fireproof, right? They made a
Fire.
movie, Fireproof and Facing the Giants and Courageous.
I'd have
You
to look
don't
those up.
really?
Maybe
Okay.
I'd have to look up and see, get more context
I
there.
promise you, anyone that's listening to the podcast probably definitely knows. These guys are the Kendrick brothers. They're really famous for making Christian movies,
Okay.
and their movies like took off and did like crazy box office earnings.
Mm-hmm.
But before they did those, they were making these really crappy Christian movies. Like there was one called Flywheel, and there was one before that, and it was I think they made them in Georgia or Mississippi, and they're like really bad acting. Script is kind of bad, and everything was just kind of bad. And we watched a lot of those types of films, and I remember thinking, this is really bad, but it still was entertaining, and I still was like, maybe I think there was a certain level to going, if these people can make these things that people are watching, even if they're this bad, and I'm still entertained by it, like there's still value in it, even if I'm not perfect. But yeah, later in life, as soon as I became a filmmaker, man, I loved movies and cinema. I started like dissecting everything I watched. I watched films much more critically, which became super annoying for my family, because I'd be like, oh, I know how they did that and things like that. But there's a lot more value there for me now, for sure.
Have you watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it without any context. I had no idea what it was about, and I watched it and was very confused. And I was like, "Why is this such a big deal?" And then I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh!" And I talked to my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, we were alive then."
Yeah.
And when this all happened, and she found it actually kind of fascinating. And I was like, "Well, it's a Tarantino movie. You don't want to watch it," because I was like, "It's a little gory," but man, it was watching it or knowing that afterwards, I was like, wow, yeah, that was phenomenal.
But I love the part when it's Leo and Brad and they're just watching the TV, but you can just hear them talking about it like that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I feel like that's me all the time now. There's
very few movies with Leonardo that I do not like thoroughly enjoy. I'm a big fan of his. I thought the acting and I think Tarantino is a genius. Just a mad genius.
Yeah, curious how many more, which I think he said he was only going to do 10 films, so I know we're getting there. So I'm curious to see what his final films may be. Cool. So being sheltered away like from film and stuff, were there any immediate films like you jumped to go see, like once you kind of
you would have thought that Harry Potter would have been one of those, but it actually wasn't. It was years after that I kind of decided to start watching them, and I never actually sat down and watched all of them, which is to my shame. I legit like them. I just haven't actually sat down and watched all of them through and through. But the ones that we were allowed to watch was Lord of the Rings, and that's something I've always gone back to watch again and again, and still in my mind is probably one of the best stories ever. Ever put on film and written even. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Most of the films we weren't allowed to watch, I still watched just later, like 16-ish, whenever I was kind of sort of not allowed to, but kind of sort of could. I was kind of a rebel child. But yeah, it was more of a like act of just, wanting to watch it than really appreciating it. The movie that probably impacted me the most was Good Will Hunting, though, because it was the first movie that I watched with that much language in it, where I was like, whoa, this is a good movie. And I realized in that moment, it's possible to have a movie with just insane amount of language and non-Christian plots that is really good and really impactful. And then Shawshank Redemption was the next one. Just a phenomenal storyline, and the acting was really, really great, and I loved it. And that was the moment. Those two movies probably were the moment that I changed my viewpoint on movies drastically, to open at the door to, like, just any old movie that I watch can be super impactful, whether it's Christian or whether it's like perfectly aligned on morals and things like that, because there's sub morals and there's subplots that really can connect with people and actually have a good impact on them.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I'm still playing catch up on so many classic films. Cool. So moving forward a little bit, I guess we may have talked about this before, but did you do college once you're done with homeschool?
No, everyone in homeschool like pretty much does. Like they're they usually get like really high ACT scores, and they're like, all my buddies were like going to college and whatnot. But I was like, no. One, I was not like the high ACT score guy. I was, more like lower. And I was like, I don't really, I'm not going to get a scholarship. So I was like, I don't want to go into debt. Those are my two kinds of thought. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I don't want to go to college when I don't know what I want to do, and then end up, wasting all this money,
right,
and having nothing to gain from it, So yeah, no, I didn't, and I don't regret that even a little bit. Sometimes I wish that you could go to college classes, and you technically can sometimes, but I wanted to take some classes that are really cheap, or just sit in on lectures. That would have been really fun. I still do that if I could, just sitting in on lectures and whatnot. Economics is a big one that I would love to sit in on.
Yeah.
And political philosophy things.
Yeah,
I'm still a political junkie.
I feel like so much of that, all you can do is ask. I mean, they can either say yes or no. And if you have a compelling story of like, look, I have so much interest in this, and I didn't go the college route, but I'd love to just sit in for one day. But then again, you also keep in mind whenever you get, is it 55 or 65, you basically can go for free.
I think so.
It's one of the, I can't remember. Yeah. So, I mean, I could see myself doing that as well. I can't remember the exact age, but I know you hit an age where you basically can go. Because I know when my wife and I graduated, there was someone, pretty sure it was at her university, that was like on X degree. Like that's all they've been doing is just going getting degree after degree after degree, which I thought was pretty cool.
Amazing.
So what did you jump right into video, or was this doing more of the political side of things?
So I jumped into politics because I had a lot of connections, because I was an activist since I was like 15, or even earlier, really. I technically started when I was 13, but I campaigned all over the country already, just for free, with an organization called Generation Joshua, a bunch of homeschool political activists that get paid to campaign across the country. So I did that till I was like 18. I think I did it after I was 18, actually. And then I got married at 19. And I was working just a lawn care job. That's kind of what I've done off and on since when I was a teenager, just lawn care. And I was just, I was just fine. I wasn't like trying. I wasn't really ambitious or trying to find anything at the time. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey, there's this job, and it pays like a lot, and it's for Rand Paul." And I was like, because I already told him, I was like, "Hey, if that comes up, if a job comes up for Rand Paul, like I want to be a part of that," because I was a big Ron Paul fan. I'm a libertarian, so I was like, super excited to campaign for a candidate that I actually liked. So yeah, me and my wife were like, what if we both got the job? And so, because we just got married, and so I had her apply, and they were like, yeah, she can work too. And they just wanted people, and I was like, sweet. And so I asked my best friend, I was like, hey man, you should come with us. And so he applied for the job, and so we all went up to Iowa. All were making like really good money. We had to pay for our own room and board, but it was a really good time because we just got to just be. We didn't have to worry about finances. We didn't have to worry about anything. It was just every day hanging out, knocking on doors. A lot of fun, really good experience. And then we went to Vegas for the last stretch of it before he dropped out of the race, unfortunately. But
what year was this?
This was this past. I guess, what year is that, Jackie? When we were in 15.
Did 16. You interesting? So did you think about vlogging any of that? Because this was 15? That was around like isn't that when like Casey and I started vlogging around that year?
I think so. But I wasn't actually into Casey yet. I didn't even realize he existed. I don't think. I think I'd seen a couple of stuff. But the thought crossed my mind so many times. And I was like, I wish I had a video camera.
Well, did you have a smartphone at this time?
I did, but I was like, I had the mindset of, oh, it's not a camera,
right.
It's not the right thing. I've never been one of those people who takes what they have and works with it. I'm always like, oh, I need the better gear, and that was a really bad mindset that I've tried to work out of. But I remember there was some other guy who was taking photos for the campaign trail and videos, and I was like, I want to do that. And I contacted him and was just like complimenting on his photos and whatnot. And we never talked again, but I was just like, that would be so much fun because you get to travel, you get to, go around, and I love traveling. It's my biggest passion probably. And I was just like, I really want to do that. But it just kind of died away as these little dreams do. In these little moments, I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's not gonna happen. So I just never did anything about it. I got back home, and then I worked at Domino's for like a year. And while I was working at Domino's, I met a guy named Justin there that worked there. He was a manager, and I was just like, we were both like, this is not what we want to do. Like, we both kind of just started. We were making pizza one day, and we looked at each other, and we were literally slapping the dough, and we looked at each other, and we're just like, pizza. And he's like, pizza. And it was like this moment we clicked. We're just like, this is not something I want to keep doing.
Yeah.
And we started talking about doing a video production business of some sort, mainly with drones. And so that was like really big at the time. Drones were like all the hype. And so he's like, yeah. And I already bought a drone a while back, and I crashed it, and I kind of gave up on it. But I was still sort of fascinated with it. And we talked, and he was like, well, my dad is rich and can, help us get off the ground. So he bought us a drone. And then he kind of like went AWOL on me. And Justin went and got a job at Axiom. I kept the drone, and he was like, yeah, keep doing the business. He's like, I'll start editing for you as soon as I get things in order, which never happened. So it was just me. So I learned to edit. We shot our first wedding film. It was horrible, but we did it for free. It was for a friend.
So was that the very first video? That was a question I had. It was like, what is the first video you made? Like, when you started going into your film business?
Yeah, there was a wedding film. Okay, it was really, really bad. Sorry, my kids are fine. It was just horrendous. Now, she loved it, so that says something, I guess. The bride loved it. They were super, super happy for it. They got it for free, and I shot it on an Osmo, which is like a little gimbal camera. It's just crappy. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought it was amazing. And I shot it with a drone. I actually used the drone while she was walking, not down the aisle, but kind of towards the aisle, because it was an outdoor wedding. And I had the drone up, and like looking back, I'm like, oh man. It was an embarrassing film, but I remember like waiting for like months because Justin was supposed to edit it, and I was like, dude, you gotta edit this film. You gotta edit this stuff. Like, that was his job. He already knew how to edit, so he's like, yeah, I'll get to it. He never got to it, and I was like, I need to get her film. And so I sat down on iMovie, and I edited this film on iMovie, and it was a lot of cross dissolves, and a lot of like just really, really bad sound design. So the film wasn't great, but that was the first time. And then the next one we made, we booked a couple in Conway, and it was like 400 for that one, and it turned out okay. It would have actually been a lot better, except for the fact that when we got there, the venue was like, oh, you can't move. You have to sit in the pew and not move during the ceremony. It was a Hendrix. Where their chapel, and they have a rule in the chapel that you cannot move with the camera. Like, you have to stay in one spot the whole thing. And so I had to sit in the pew and record through people's heads to try to get the kiss and things like that. So there was a lot that was just not good. And then I was also still super amateurish, but it ended up being good. She still loved the film, and it kept getting better from there. And we kept on learning, and I kept on just watching. I watched Craig Adams on YouTube, who owned Wedding Film School, the channel, and he taught me everything I knew pretty much. And yeah, it just kept going. And then I wanted to branch off into business, because I never wanted to stay in weddings. I love weddings, and I want to do them forever, but I just want to do more premium weddings, once a month kind of thing. And then I want to branch off into brand stuff, and I love the concept of doing product videos. I've done a few, and I love being able to do it in your house. You have all creative freedom and things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to pushing into that area.
Gotcha. So have you started doing that just yet, or is this like a plan for this year?
We've started, but when you start with product stuff, it's kind of more of a thing, like you do it and then you hope that someone else sees it that wants a video like that. Instead of like you have to find a client that's like willing for you to shoot. We had a couple that was like super excited for us to do a video for them. We did the video for them, and they were like, "Yeah, we like it. We love it a lot." And then we sent them the price, and they were like, "Oh, no response," or we're not interested, or whatever. So we realized that this is just, it's going to be one of those things you just have to build a portfolio up. So we've just been doing it and having fun with it, learning the trade, so to speak. And then we'll just keep doing it until somebody's like, hey, we want to buy that video, or we want you to do one like that, and so forth and so on. So I think at this point, it's just kind of the same as the wedding game. You do one for free, you do one for cheap, and then you have a portfolio to show people. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, so many vloggers and filmmakers I follow, that's kind of their go-to approach for aspiring filmmakers. Is you got to look in your area where you're at, and you got to basically, you find your Coca-Cola. Like, who do you think is going to have the biggest reach for you? And essentially you're going to do work for them for free because they're going to have the biggest brand. You do solid work for them, then the goal is it's kind of, everyone else will kind of like it and follow and want to work with you. Or, you have that solid relationship, they're a bigger brand, they can connect you with other people, or they'll just want to work with you in the future and pay.
Yeah, that's what Peter McKinnon said. That was the moment I really started thinking that way, was when Peter McKinnon was talking about product photography and how he would just do random photos for random brands that were big, and he would tag them on Instagram and just wait. And sometimes they would message him and be like, we love the video, really good job. And sometimes they'd message him and be like, we want to buy the video, or we want to use it. Or they'd be like, hey, can you take photos of this other product of ours? And it's just grassroots work. It's how you build a business the old fashioned way. And I love it. It's challenging and frustrating. Don't get me wrong. That's like getting the emails from people being like, oh, well, it's not consistent with our brand when you shot a video of their drink with their color, and that's it. Like it was, I did one for Scarlet Letter in Arkansas. It's like a seltzer.
I've just learned about them this year.
Yeah, it's and I did one. I'm talking like super dirt cheap pricing, right? I was like, they were like, we don't have a budget for it, and I was like, what about if I did it for this cheap and you just shout me out on your Instagram, because they have a lot of followers. And they were like, yeah, sure. They sent me all this information about the brand, about the drink and everything, and I went and bought the cans. I went and bought them, but they didn't send them to me. And I took it to the studio. We made a little video. It was green screened out, just their background, their color, their slogan, and their can. And it just like rolls, basically, just a real classic, oh, it's spinning and, real and pretty chill music. And they said, oh, that's not in line with our brand. And I was like, it wasn't like bad. It was not like, $15,000 commercial by any means, but it was not bad at all for an Arkansas brand. And I was shocked, because I go through their Instagram and I'm like, this is not impressive. So it's not like they're going to get worse with this. But for some reason, some people are just like, nah, I'm just not willing to drop $50 on a video. I was like, okay. So it is frustrating, but that's how it goes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've got my own taste of things like that, being as an app developer primarily. That's just a premium service. It's definitely difficult. That's interesting. Yeah. So you work with your wife, correct?
We started business together.
Y'all started this. I was curious to see, like, when you're kind of getting back to Arkansas and transitioning, did you both just start this together, or did she come in later?
It was my thing, and I've always had the goal to kind of build this business up, and I was hoping it would take less time, but I wanted to get it to a place where I could then fund and supply her in-home recording studio, because she's a singer. She's really talented, and she's always wanted to sing. And I was like, this would be really a good way to eventually get the equipment for you to have a really nice studio. And I've acquired quite a few things through the years, but we just haven't actually set it up different things have always popped up. But she's just now starting to sing again anyways. She's been out of practice for a while. So she's singing in Conway at Round Mountain like this week actually. So I'm just gonna kind of record her there and just start putting out content of hers, and giving her a channel. But yeah, we started together. It was my thing. I was the one that was like learning everything and all this, but it was it slowly became kind of our thing because she didn't do anything. She was a stay-at-home mom, so it was just like we're here at home. I love to work from home, and I was excited about that. So I was like, all right, cool. Do you want to do this together? Kind of like help me, because I was like, I have ADHD, and I was like, I can't really seem to sit down and edit. And I was like, can you just help me with the basic parts, and then I'll fine tune the edits. And that's kind of was our system for like a while. And I brought in Jasper Redden a lot to help as well. A good friend of mine in Conway, he's a talented guy, and he helped kind of shoot and edit weddings and photos for me. But yeah, we both ended up doing kind of everything. And now she shoots. She is the manager of all the clients pretty much. She helps me with editing here and there a little bit, more consulting now because I have an editor. So she just kind of like, I think this should be changed. I think this should be changed, whatnot. But she does basically everything in the business to some extent. So yeah, it's really, really, really helpful to have someone so smart who can come alongside and help you in all the areas that she worked really hard to like train yourself in, and she's just like boom boom.
That was always my approach. Like, I'm solid developer, but I'm not a graphic designer, so any personal apps I always try to like save up money so I can go hire a professional graphic designer and make products look beautiful, because I just don't want to just waste that time.
Sure.
Have you looked, isn't there a recording studio downtown?
There is. He's actually a friend of mine, but we just haven't, again, just life. We haven't gotten the time, and I was going to surprise her with it actually last year, but just never ended up happening. But she recorded a few songs here with our gear, with Jasper and Michael Walsh, but she wasn't really happy with them. It was more like she was like, she's really picky about her sound. Like she's self-conscious, and so we're trying to push her, be like, you just got to put stuff out. So she's starting a TikTok, and we're gonna start a YouTube channel soon. Just putting out just music. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be studio quality. But yeah, I do plan to do some stuff with the guy. What's his name now? Drawing a blank. It's Fret Monkey Studio.
Yeah, it's Fret Monkey. That's right. I don't know them personally. I've never met them.
I've hung out. I've met him quite a few times because I did his mother is the one that's in charge of Fingerstyle Festival. It's like a guitar festival in North Arkansas, and it's I think they do it all over the world, but they had one in North Arkansas, and I helped by filming the entire event. And so I met him and whatnot. He's a very talented artist and filmmaker. He does filmmaking and photos, I think, and music. I don't remember.
Yeah, if you remember, just let me know. Curious.
He's a really cool guy, though.
Curious if I know him as well. Let's talk about the name of your business. What's the origin around that? Is there any?
So I'm a Doctor Who fan. So yeah, Blue Box kind of represented the travel side of me, because he travels around in a box, and he's an adventurous person who just does and is super creative. So this came after many different names, and I was just like, I kept changing my name, or kept on thinking about different names, and I kept on asking people, like, taking polls, like, hey, what do you think about this name? What do you think about this name? And finally, I just was like, I can't seem to find a name that I like that everyone else likes, because every time I picked a name, they were like, that's stupid. And so finally, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to pick a name that means something to me, that I know I'll always like, because it means something so much to me. And so I was like, yep, Blue Box. I thought about TARDIS Videography, because the actual name of the Blue Box is called TARDIS. And I thought about all these different names, but I was like, I landed on Blue Box Videography. that was it, Blue Box Videography. And then we changed it to Blue Box Studios when we started doing things other than video, photo, and graphic design. So I was like, yeah, this is good. And I've really grown to just love it and not worry about what other people think. Because one of the biggest things that changed my perspective was when I met clients and they were like, the TARDIS. And I was like, you get it.
Yeah.
That's happened a few times. I actually had a client the other day who I was trying to pitch a video to, and she was not interested. And then I handed her a card as I was walking out, and she was like, Doctor Who. And I was like, yes. and now she wants to do video. So I was like, yeah, it was a good choice. I think it was. A lot of people were like, what does that even mean? But I was like, I explained to him real quickly, and then the conversation's over. No worries.
There's so much you could do with that content. You could just create a TikTok and kind of like try to like do Doctor Who. I've never watched Doctor Who. It's on the bucket list. I'll get to it eventually.
It's a very specific type of show.
Yeah.
It's I think it's for nerds that are philosophical and care a lot about like, I don't know, different philosophies and space travel and whatnot, but like there's this underlying moral line that like follows Doctor Who, which is like, life is precious and life is unique and it's important and that's why I liked it, right? Because I started falling in love with Doctor Who at the same time I started falling in love with Ron Paul, libertarian concepts and stuff, and that's kind of what caused me to just go that direction. And I could not get my friends to watch it for the longest time. Everyone was like, this is the worst, most corny show ever. But I finally got my best friend to watch it, and now it's one of his favorite shows as well. So I feel like a complete success.
There you go. Let's get one. Yeah. In regards with like shows that have such a massive audience that I haven't seen, it'd be like Doctor Who and The Office. Which whoever listens to this, I'm probably get a lot of hate, but I will get to those eventually.
At least you're not one of those people that watch The Office and then hate on it. Like those people are they're problematic.
So what's let's a few more questions we can wrap this up. What are like some big objectives you have for your business going into this year, into next year?
That's a good question. I'm kind of just going with the flow right now because I don't know what's going to happen. But what I see happening is moving into really heavily into weddings like we already are, but like continuing that trend of being really heavily into weddings and pushing into more high-end weddings. And then music videos. I see that actually being a potential. I just had a client who did a couple videos for her husband's band and her friend's band. She's a singer, and she's like, I want to do a music video as well. And so we're going to keep discussing that. If I do that music video, I have a feeling that I'm going to love it and I'm going to want to do more. And then I'll try to do one for my wife. And then if I have those 2 music videos to showcase, maybe I can start doing more music videos. Music videos are kind of difficult in Arkansas because a lot of the artists in Arkansas don't have a budget really, especially for the kind of quality that I like to give. But I'm going to just try my best at it and see what happens, because I would love to do music videos. Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing. Had plenty of nights just driving home later in night and I just see people shooting music videos all throughout town. So it happens here. It's cool. I'll have to think on that. I've got a connection to a few musicians, so we can chat about that later if you want.
For sure.
Going into like Arkansas specific, I mean, do you have any kind of, what's it like running your business in Arkansas? And, do you have kind of like a vision for your business in Arkansas or things you want to do to elevate Arkansas, especially Central Arkansas?
So we discussed when we met a couple weeks ago about how I had this vision for a studio, kind of a creator studio in Central Arkansas. That's where I was going to go. But now that the studio downtown exists and they're going to be expanding and whatnot, I think she's taking the mantle that I kind of was wanting to take. And I'm fine with that. I'm excited to see someone so creative take hold of that idea. And I'm probably going to just lean into maybe doing events. Blue Box Studios might expand into doing events in downtown. My big goal, though, overall, like the kind of the string that keeps it all together, and what I'm wanting to accomplish here is that I want Conway and Central Arkansas, especially, but all of Arkansas, to kind of become more innovative and more creative, because I think that we've become stagnated, and there's a lot of people here that have the potential to do great things, and because we're in Arkansas, I think they either move away, or they just kind of just don't jump on their dreams. They don't really try because it's Arkansas, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of support for it. So I want to change the narrative in Arkansas to where people go, okay, this little film, this short film came out of Arkansas. This company, this vlogger, this whatever. I want people to see Blue Box Studios and everything that comes from Blue Box Studios, and be like, wow, that was creative for Arkansas. And then I want the narrative to change to be like, yeah, that's just Arkansas. They're creative people. Because I think Arkansas has like insanely creative populace. Like Fayetteville, there's tons of people there that are super creative, and I just think that no one's tapping into it really and pursuing it, because we kind of got this nobody Hicktown kind of concept that everyone thinks of us as, and I just don't think that's accurate. I mean, Georgia. If you look at Georgia, there's tons of creatives in Georgia and Atlanta. I think Arkansas can be just as creative. If not more.
You look at like, so many things are filmed in Georgia, but I mean, diving into that, you got, if you look at just film specifically, like we probably have Jeff Nichols as like one of the biggest Arkansas advocates, because he likes filming here. He's from here. So now like top of my mind is with him on board for Quiet Place Part 3, is that going to be filmed here?
Right.
If it's going to be like a spinoff. So I'd love to see like Clark Duke do more for Arkansas, since he's from Hot Springs, and even though his film Arkansas isn't really based in Arkansas, I know it's still a big nod to that. So we'd love to see that. No, I dig that. Like one thing my wife and I have been chatting about a lot lately is, if you look at kind of like our going outside of our downtown area, through like Oak Street, it's like not very exciting. There's just a lot of empty space. We thought, why doesn't someone turn some of that into like the food truck area? Like, why can't you do like food trucks and live music and hang out there and kind of extend out that way?
There's a lot of potential. I think Oak Street and just so many different areas of Conway, that if they actually invested, we talked about this slightly. I think that management in Conway, I hope they don't listen to this, but I think that the management in Conway and the people that kind of run the show are unfortunately not super creative, and they're not very, I don't think they're thinking too futuristic. I think they're very like, oh, well, this other town over here is doing it. They're copycatting. I think we could really, really do it's more creative. We have 3 colleges here. There's no reason we can't really be taking advantage of that, and it would boom the economy. I love the food truck idea, something like that. Having live music stage that people actually use. Downtown's nice, but like there needs to be another area that people can just go and like have events.
And we have multiple areas. Like we definitely have the downtown area, but why can't we have one just a little ways away where you have different vibes, right? If you want to go do a dine-in restaurant, you can go do that. Walk right outside, there'll be music and art and stuff, or you can go down the street where there's food trucks and you can just go sit out with your friends, be able to drink, listen to music, just kind of have that kind of vibe. Of course, be supervised and all that. That's one of my biggest things is like I've become so much of a foodie, and like I love the food scene in Little Rock. Little Rock has just amazing food, amazing chefs, and not to hate on like Conway, there are some good places, but it's not as elevated as Little Rock that I'd love to see.
Sorry, one sec.
No, you're
gotta
good.
Get my wife. She's dealing with 3 kids.
we can wrap this up. So
no, we're good. I think it's just lawn care people.
Oh, all good. No, this will be a super entertaining episode.
Yeah, there's a lot. This kind of reminds me of that meme with the little video of the guy on TV and his son comes in the door in the background.
Yeah.
And then his wife like comes in, like grabs, like runs out, like he's just like, sorry.
I record. I've got another podcast I'm a co-host on. We talked about Marvel content, and usually it's in the evenings, and I always have to like forewarn, like kids are up, like we may hear background noises. It's always cool. It's always fun. Like at this day and age, like
it's and people are chill with it because of COVID. Like everyone's been having meetings in their house. Like everyone, it's a joke now.
Right. So 2 more questions, and we can wrap this up. So the first one, through what you've done so far with your experience, and this is really going to be for like if we can get some like aspiring filmmakers, entrepreneurs to listen in, what are some of the big aha moments for you? Like what were some of the fail moments that you learned from that you think would benefit others?
That's a good question. So like in my business or like filmmaking in general?
Any of that, whatever, like any big aha moments that stand out to you.
So a big one would be like where this is more of a kind of a philosophy that I tried to change my mentality. Like I said before, I went into things really fear focused and be like, I gotta have the next thing. I gotta have this fear to be able to accomplish this. You know, watch people like getting Casey Neistat on these people. I'm just like, they have this camera, they have this. And I'm just like, I want to have like all of that. And then one day I was like, I watched some video done by I think it was Cody Warner, and I was just like, this guy's mentality is completely different. It's just create. That was a big moment of me realizing that I've been failing myself, been failing my business, because I was constantly trying to expand in ways without expanding gear without expanding my knowledge. You know, I stagnated in my knowledge, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to invest, and so I invested in Full-Time Filmmaker, which is a filmmaking course put out by Parker Wolbeck, one of the best filmmakers out there, a great YouTuber. Dude started out with like $500, and like 5 years later, he has $5 million in the bank, because he took what he had and he started making films, and he just did everything right, and he just kept on pushing, and he never stopped creating content. And so I'm like, you know, I feel like I need to just create more content. That was one big thing. And then the other thing that I learned was like, I got to get outside my head and just start networking. So doing this kind of stuff and just talking to other people. 2 things came from that, right? I struggled from depression. And so depression and anxiety. Then I have ADHD. And so my personality kind of tends to be like, okay, I'm an extrovert sort of, but like, I don't want to actually talk to people. It's this weird thing. Like when I actually am talking to people, I feel charged up and it helps me. But I have anxiety about starting the conversation. So I wasn't good at networking. And finally, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and they were like, you got to get out there, dude. You got to start networking. And that was when I started. I started going to coffee shops and just talking to people. And some of the best connections I made some connections to a couple of YouTuber brothers in Conway just a few weeks ago. And we ended up doing like 2 videos together, and we're going to collab more. And they have like 150,000 subscribers. And, these guys are amped, and I'm like, I love their energy, and I'm like, I would never have met these people if I hadn't been, you know, networking and being willing to talk to people. So that's a big thing. It's just being willing to connect with other people. A lot of times I felt this like, okay, we're in Arkansas. I kind of bought into it. I was like, there's nobody. Everyone that I know of that's creative is the only ones that are out there that are creative. Like I didn't even know you existed, really. I didn't know that. Like I was just kind of in my own niche, and I was like, there's not very many creative people in Conway. And then I started going out to coffee shops and started like talking to people, and I was like realizing things were happening. Like I didn't even know about the studio until you told me them expanding. And I was like, that was really encouraging. I won't be dishonest and say that I wasn't a little disappointed, because I planned to create that studio, and I specifically had an eye for that space. But now that I've thought about it, I'm just like super excited just to see it happen, you know?
Yeah.
So it's now just changing my mindset to be more focused on connecting with other people and trying to bring their strengths with my strengths. And I think that a lot more can happen, and I can actually push Conway and Arkansas towards a more creative space.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree 100%. Cool. All right. Well, where can people find you online?
BlueBoxStudios.net. Still getting used to the name change even after a year. But BlueBoxStudios.net is our website. But check us out on Instagram, Blue Box Studios, and Blue Box Weddings. We have two different Instagrams. We love shooting weddings, and if y'all know anyone that has a wedding film coming up and they really want someone that's creative and relaxed, hit us up. We've just really dove in, and our editor is super passionate about it, and so we're looking to find some creative weddings that people are just wanting to create something really unique. We're down for that. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
cool. Well, I'll link it all below.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for the time today.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much for listening to this new episode of Take 25. I really hope you enjoyed it. So I ask that you please go check out Blue Box Studios. Their link to their website and all of their socials will be below. So if you are interested in finding someone to film your wedding or need any marketing or commercial type help, please go check out their website. Please reach out to their team. They would be happy to help you out. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please be sure to subscribe, follow, like, all of that good stuff. It helps the algorithms to help promote this episode. Please share this with your friends. Please be sure to tag any friends that you may know that are getting married, or any musician friends that are looking for a music video. Would love to get them connected with Blue Box Studios. Once again, thank you so much. If you are interested in being a guest on this show, please be sure to reach out to me. I'm going to try to make more of a official approach to this, whether it's some kind of like contact form or something like that. I will get there, but for now, you can connect with me on social. You can get me on Twitter at the Luke Irvin. I'll link everything below, but yeah, would love to have more guests. Got a few I'm reaching out to that I hope I can get scheduled soon. So yeah, having a lot of fun with this. So thank you once again. Once again, be sure to go check out Blue Box Studios. Check out all my past episodes as well. Some of the campaigns from my past episodes are still live, so be sure to go support those. That would mean a lot to those creatives. So we'll see you next time. Have a good week.
Yeah. In 2010, thought I was doing something, and now I'm rapping with a crew or something. I guess the track don't